I'm America's Digital Pro, Kim Komando, and in tech news this week, stunning new reports show last year's Equifax breach, well, surprise, it's actually worse than we ever thought. Plus, Apple unveils its HomePod. So how does it compare to the huge success of Amazon's Alexa? And I'm sharing incredible, useful online sites. You're going to love these. Places online that you didn't know exist, but once you know about them, you are going to use them time and time again. Now, let's get the latest from the Komando.com news desk.
It's been several months now since the Equifax data breach exposed sensitive information, social security numbers, birth dates, home addresses, phone numbers, you name it, on more than 145 million Americans. Equifax, at the time, said that a handful of consumers also had their driver's license and credit card numbers exposed. As it turns out, the Equifax breach is much worse than we were led to believe. Equifax submitted a document to the Senate Banking Committee this past week, fully detailing the breach. The document claims that cybercriminals accessed even more critical data: tax identification numbers, phone numbers, email addresses, credit card expiration dates, and issuing states for driver's licenses, all exposed in this breach. Now, with so many people impacted, the Social Security Administration is advising everyone to create a My Social Security account. This should help take away much of the risk of someone else trying to create a Social Security account in your name, even if they obtain your Social Security number. Facebook's new Protect feature might not be protecting you and Facebook users at all. Facebook acquired a company called Anavo Protect, and they promise to protect all your devices by routing your traffic through their secure servers using virtual private networking or VPN. Well, instead, it appears that this Anavo Protect is tracking every move you make, spying on your browsing habits, including other rival social networking apps that you may be using. Users most at risk are those using Apple iPhones, the iOS version of the Facebook app. Of course, VPNs are used by people who want to remain anonymous and have plenty of online privacy. However, when you look at the small print of Anavo Protect and Facebook's Protect feature, you'll find it can be used for all kinds of things, more than just security purposes. The agreement basically says that as part of the protection process, Anavo collects all your mobile traffic data. Facebook and Anavo claim that this helps the company improve their service by analyzing your use of websites and the apps and the data you use. Remember, this software is tracking your every move and looking at all your web browsing habits. Well, there's a new Gallup survey poll that's been taken in 21 states, and it says that people just aren't as happy as they used to be. And the reason why? They're blaming technology. It's the overall attitude about social relationships, about having a purpose, about community, financial health, physical health. All of this, according to Gallup, is on the decline. There's research data showing that people who spend more than 5 hours on their smart devices are more likely to suffer from depression and have thoughts of suicide. The research also shows that on average, teens and adults spend 6 to 8 hours online every day. Some research even indicates that because of all the time spent online, many adults are even spending less time in the bedroom. Research proves that face-to-face contact, as opposed to online contact, is best for everyone's mental health, along with hugging friends and showing physical affection to everybody who's close to you. A few students around the United States are enjoying field trips to the zoo, museums, and historical sites through virtual reality. For the few who have been exposed to it, including the teachers, they seem to like it. They say it's another way to increase students' understanding and improve their grades. Virtual reality classrooms are very expensive, so right now it's all mobile. Literally, a bus pulls up to schools that are going to have the virtual reality tour and hooks everyone up through virtual reality glasses. Deep sea diving, walking through a farm field of wheat and corn, and observing medical operations are all possible with this new technology. It's allowing students to experience things they otherwise would never be able to do, especially during their teen years. Virtual reality in the classroom is still very rare, it's hard to come by, and no one knows yet how many classrooms will have the money to even use the technology.
This week on the Komando On Demand podcast, now you can find any recipe online and watch everyday people making incredible dishes. These food vloggers have turned their love of cooking into a money-making business, and so can you. You want to share your recipes and cooking expertise with a worldwide audience? It's all there for you on the Komando app or your favorite podcast player by searching KOMANDO.
This was the week that a big message was sent to Facebook and Google from one of the world's biggest advertisers. The message was, remove the toxic content, or we're going to pull our ads. The company is called Unilever. That name might not ring a bell, but the products that they make will. Unilever makes brands including Dove soaps and facial cream, Ben & Jerry's ice cream, Lipton tea, Hellmann's mayonnaise, and a lot of other products. They're calling on Facebook and Google and all of Silicon Valley to do a better job in keeping an eye out for questionable content, such as propaganda from North Korea, terrorist organizations, hate speech, and anything that exploits children. And by the way, that company, Unilever, spends $2.4 billion on digital advertising. They say in the future they'll only partner with digital networks that plan to use an industry standard for advertising metrics. Facebook falls back on the same old thing. It says it will continue to work to earn the trust of its advertisers and users, but no direct response to the Unilever threat. If you've invested in Bitcoins, did you know you have to pay taxes on Bitcoin transactions? Kim has more on the vast number of people who are just not paying up to the IRS, along with a comparison of the Apple HomePod versus Amazon's Echo.
If you're one of the millions who invested in Bitcoins or any cryptocurrency last year, the chances are very high that you owe money to the IRS, and most people aren't paying, at least for now. As we move through this tax season, it's becoming apparent that most cryptocurrency investors have no idea the tax ramifications of buying and selling Bitcoins and other cryptocurrencies, especially the average small investor. One reason is the word cryptocurrency. It's misleading. Cryptocurrencies are not a currency at all. They're actually property, making every transaction a taxable event, especially trading Bitcoins for another digital coin or cashing them in for real U.S. money. Even money made from creating Bitcoins through mining is taxable. The company Credit Karma says that only 100 of the 250,000 federal tax returns they've prepared for customers this season included cryptocurrency gains and losses. The IRS may be slow, but they'll collect. Which is best? We'll compare two of America's hottest tech products, Amazon's Echo using Alexa and Apple's new HomePod using Siri. Back in 2014, I was an early adopter of the Amazon Echo with Alexa as its digital assistant. Apple's new HomePod went on sale last week using Siri as its assistant, so I put them in a side-by-side test. Both Siri and Alexa are capable, but Alexa clearly has the edge. If you want recipes and fast facts, go with Amazon's Echo. But if you're listening to music, nothing compares to Apple's HomePod. Yes, it's 3 times the cost of an Echo, but HomePod's sound is stunning. There are 7 tweeters spaced evenly around, so it sounds great no matter where you stand. Amazon's Echo has just 1. HomePod has a high excursion subwoofer, meaning it can produce deep, clean, room-filling bass. The Echo has a subwoofer too, not as good. My advice, spend the extra money. Apple's HomePod wins.
Protect yourself. Kim Komando security alerts at komando.com.
Microsoft says it wants to do away with passwords, and of course, who doesn't? But Microsoft says the next test version of its stripped-down Windows 10 operating system won't require passwords at all. Now, killing passwords will definitely take a lot of work and time. When it comes to data breaches, bad passwords are the #1 cause, 80% due to password problems, according to Verizon. On the user level, you know that passwords are an inconvenience, especially when you can't remember the one that you need right now to pay a utility bill or access your bank account. In Microsoft's world, replacing passwords will be fingerprint scanners, facial scans, or temporary codes. Bottom line, passwords are not adapting to the modern age. People don't like them, and they gotta go. And another thing that may be going away soon is print journalism. The CEO of the New York Times predicts that the newspaper, as a printed entity, might survive for another 10 years max. But digital is where it's at. With the New York Times, they've added over 155,000 new digital subscriptions in the last quarter of 2017. In fact, revenue from digital subscriptions increased more than 50% in this last quarter compared to a year earlier. Bottom line, if you're reading a newspaper, whether it's local or national, for free online, that trend will soon come to an end. And just like the printed edition, you'll have to pay to read it online. Now back to Facebook for a moment, because it looks as though Facebook is turning into a site for people over the age of 55. People 25 and younger appear to be ditching Facebook in favor of Snapchat. Features like filters and lenses seem to be the big attention grabber of Snapchat. Even more so, Snapchat's relative privacy and the ability to share content without it being permanent is a big lure for teens, since many of them feel they can be themselves, whatever that may be, on Snapchat, and they worry about Facebook privacy. On Snapchat, all the content is said to be time-limited, and it can be sent directly to an individual or only a small group of friends. Now, as a result of all this, the research company called eMarketer predicts that there will be a first-ever decline in the use of Facebook in the United States this year among those who are 18 to 24 years old. It's estimated that Facebook can lose up to 2 million people under the age of 25 this year alone, with Snapchat and Instagram as the main beneficiaries. But don't sell Facebook short. It's still the most popular social network in the United States, with more than 170 million users.
Get the free Kim Komando app, free podcasts, and great prizes. Search Komando at Apple iTunes and Google Play.
Despite the news that iPhone X sales weren't all that Apple wanted it to be in 2017, Apple, as a company, continues to do exceedingly well. They posted their biggest quarterly profit ever at the end of this year, beating its own profit record from just 2 years ago. And don't misinterpret these news stories. Apple iPhone X sales were still through the roof, just not as many as Apple had hoped. Still, the iPhone X helped push Apple to the top and make money, and lots of it. And 2018 is also going to be a promising year for Apple, with 3 new iPhones expected this year, 2 that are supposed to be Apple's biggest smartphones ever. Industry insiders say that these 3 new models will ditch the old-fashioned home button and use only facial ID and screen gestures, just like the current iPhone X. You can expect these and even more products to be introduced by Apple this year, including new iPads and an Apple Watch with health monitoring sensors, a wireless charger for all Apple gadgets, and a new Mac operating system and an upgraded AirPod. Speaking of the Apple Watch, Apple says it sold more watches last quarter than the entire Swiss watch industry combined. That means Apple sales were stronger than Rolex, Swatch, and Omega watches combined. Apple estimates that they sold about 8 million watches during the holiday season, but they don't say exactly how many because they don't release sales figures. It's not bad considering Apple's been making watches for only 4 years compared to the Swiss, and they've been in the watch business for more than 2 centuries. When it comes to smartphones, a damaged screen is one of the most common gadget disasters. Dropping a phone can send tiny shards of display glass flying everywhere, and all that means expensive repairs. It's even worse with an iPhone, since the screen tends to shatter when it lands on its edge. If you don't have Apple Care or phone insurance, expect to pay big bucks out of your own pocket to cover the screen replacement. If you're bold enough to try repairing your own iPhone by yourself, keep in mind the procedure is very tricky, and it could lead to even more damage, especially to the fingerprint and Face ID sensors. So if these options don't sound good to you, and they don't really sound good to most people, you might want to try Amazon. Believe it or not, it's Amazon with a reasonably priced in-home iPhone screen repair service. A technician will actually come to you, your home or office, and repair your iPhone screen at your convenience. No more waiting in lines and no more calling for an appointment. Prices start at about $80 for the iPhone 5 and top out at $160 for an iPhone 7 Plus screen. Now, it's recommended that you back up your own iPhone before you have it serviced. A good way to do that in the cloud is with a reliable service like iDrive. If you've been watching the 2018 Winter Olympics in South Korea, you probably were able to catch the opening ceremonies, or at least some of the highlights. And you may have noticed Team USA wearing some fairly snazzy gear. These outfits aren't just stylish, they have some amazing technology built in to keep the United States athletes warm. Ralph Lauren's Polo brand teamed up with the United States Olympic Committee to create a state-of-the-art jacket that has a self-heating interior built in that's actually controlled by Bluetooth technology and a smartphone. The warmth comes from a fabric with an American flag design that's sewn into the interior back panel of the jacket. It's printed with an extremely advanced conductive carbon and silver ink. The jackets are water repellent and they're equipped with a slender battery pack with 3 heat settings that last up to 11 hours at full charge. Want one? Well, you're out of luck. There were only 100 made, and they cost about $3,000 each. You might have a better luck winning a gold medal. And speaking of the Olympic Games, of course, there are cyber criminals, with some tricky scams making the rounds right now, like phishing scams where messages can show up in your email inbox. And these messages, of course, contain malicious links. Identity theft, stolen credentials, and your critical files being encrypted by ransomware are just a few of the nasty results of these phishing attacks. You might also receive emails with links that promise to show you videos of unseen Olympic competition, or deals on special Olympic gear that were seen in the Olympics, or anything related to the Olympic Winter Games. Stay away from all these kinds of emails. In every probability, especially if it's sent to you by somebody you don't know, it's a phishing scam and you're in for trouble if you click on the link. It's a lot of fun surfing on the web, finding new websites. Kim joins us now with 10 incredible, useful online sites you probably don't even know about. It's all part of her column in this week's USA Today.
If you had to guess, how many websites do you think exist in the world right now? Hold that number in your head because I'm going to give you the answer in just a moment. But really, there's a website for just about anything you need help with, whether it's cleaning up your email, editing photos, or fixing grammar mistakes. I'm going to share with you now some sites that you probably don't know about, but once you do, you're going to use them over and over again. All right, it's movie night. You have one in mind, but how do you find out if it's available? You could go to Netflix, then Amazon, then YouTube, then Hulu, then HBO, and about a dozen other streaming sites or apps to search for it. But by the time you do that, you're probably ready for bed. That's where Just Watch comes to the rescue. It does all that work for you. It sorts through every streaming service to find the title that you're looking for. It lets you know if it's free or what it costs to rent or buy. Next up, do you need help organizing all your stuff? Whether you collect baseball cards, you need to manage a project, or just need a place to store the secret family recipes, databases can help. Once you have all your items in a database, you can categorize and sort it in all different kinds of ways. SodaDB is a site that gives you a template and lets you store up to 10,000 individual records for free. And have you ever seen those mugs that say, "I'm silently correcting your grammar"? Well, some people aren't so silent about it when you misplace a comma or forget an apostrophe. But if you can't remember the rules that you learned in 3rd grade English, then you're definitely going to want to check out Grammarly. This great grammar checker works for emails, reports, even social media. I mean, using bad grammar on Facebook can create a tense situation, right? All right, I tried. For more incredible, useful online sites, you want to check out my USA Today column this week. You can find it over on my website, komando.com. In the Read section, just hit Columns. All right, so is that number of websites still in your head? Internet Live Stats tracks website data, and as of right now, when I wrote this script, the live ticker shows 1,335,525,090 sites, and it's increasing every single second. You're up to date, and I'm America's Digital Pro, Kim Komando. Hey, stay up to date with all the Komando articles and podcasts with the Komando app. It's free, and you get notifications for podcasts like this one and the very latest articles on everything digital and those security alerts. And if you like this podcast, do me a favor, don't forget to subscribe. Head over to iTunes, Google Play, and also give us a great 5-star rating and review us because that helps us better our podcasts and also helps more people to find our podcasts. And that's what it's all about. So thanks for listening. I'll see you next time, and I'll see you on the radio for the Kim Komando Show.